Listening is very important because they're going to tell you what they want, and you got to work with that, because if they want something that's totally not reasonable or expectations are not right, I personally tell people, other people are afraid of their customers because they're afraid they might lose the customer, but communication, listening, availability.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. I have a real special show for you today. My guest today has a proven track record of real estate success, which I hope he will share with us. He prides himself in delivering convenient and stress-free home buying and selling process. He is dedicated to a consistent education and knowledge of the entire real estate transaction. Do not make a move without me, he says. Let's welcome from United Real Estate Gallery, Jimmy Dimon.
Hi, Tracy. How you doing today?
Excellent. Glad to finally get you on the show.
Yes.
And we will have fun today.
Cool.
Because I know you'll tell it like it is. We're both New Yorkers, so that's how we're going to deliver it. So let's get skinny about real estate. But as I get started, I had a little sponsor here. You have one of these in your gift bag there.
Thank you.
Remy Graphics makes these for me. There's the show logo on one side. Remy's got her graphics. Laser engraved gifts. Obviously, these are just mugs, but she has many others. And if you're looking for one-offs, you want to put, hey, John and Sally, welcome to Jacksonville. She can make those for you. You don't have to order a dozen at a time or anything like that. If you want one-offs, she will make those for you. And remygraphics.com, and look at the many other laser engraved gifts that they can put together for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I always scan through everyone's social media, and LinkedIn gives me an idea to create some creative questions. And I think today, your background, as we were talking pre-show, and how that's helped you continue. You were successful in your endeavors prior, always rose to the top, and how that, I want to kind of get out there on how that's flowed with you right into real estate. Because like you just mentioned, we were just talking about your first year in real estate, you had 40 transactions.
It was almost 40, yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's get everyone a little background on Jimmy. Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Long Island. I worked in the banking industry. When I was 23, I moved to Florida, was trying to figure it out. I got a job in finance. Actually, in Long Island, I used to work in the banking industry, in credit cards and fraud and customer service and collections. And when I moved to Florida, I sent out my resume and I started working in the automobile finance industry in collections and repossessions.
Where was that? Where'd you come first? Because I saw Boca Raton on there. South Florida is where you headed first?
South Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
My first job was in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And like I said, 1993.
Right. Those are not easy businesses to, they like young people because they'll turn and burn you a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not easy.
No, it's not. And, people, it's easy to say, I don't have money, I'm not making my payment. But me, based on my schooling and my, my background, I would talk to the people like people,
right,
not like a collector, and explain, the repercussions if they didn't pay. And if they did work with us, we would work with them. And it worked out really good,
right.
And then there were people that would hide their cars and I would get them to turn them in. And people couldn't do that. So, I was valued.
Right. Were they giving you any like specific training to do that, or just kind of some guidelines and say, here's the phone, go?
More or less the phone go kind of deal, but I'm a quick learner.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, I get it.
So you understood what the company wanted in the end game. This is the result we want. You had the creativity to get there. That, to me, that immediately relates over what we do in real estate every day.
Absolutely.
We want to buy and sell the home. How do we get there with the cards that we have? And what was, I guess your own personality to figure that out. How do I get there? You're cutting me loose to get there. But the working with the clients, and I think you actually said in one of the bios that I read, I can't remember if it was on LinkedIn or not, spending the time with, now taking it to real estate, really finding out your needs and wants, et cetera, of your real estate clients.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So going back to the collections, I didn't treat them just like a phone gangster. I talked to them about, how to work with them. And when you talk to people like people,
Right.
and you're educating and you sound professional, people tend to work with you more.
Right. They'll stay on the phone. They're not going to hang up. And like you said, some of them were hiding their cards and so forth.
Exactly.
So you're in New York. What was your dream career at 18, 19 years old? Hey, this is what, or did you even have one? Because I imagine it wasn't real estate and it couldn't have been collections.
To be honest, I wanted to be a pharmacist. But I lived in Eastern Long Island, and the only college that offered it in Long Island was like in Queens. Mm-hmm. And because of my family situation at that time, it didn't work out.
Right. Right.
But my brain and my mouth made me a lot of money.
All right. So there's a segment in your life. You start dabbling, though, in real estate when you're in South Florida.
Yeah. There's a little part that I need to mention. So I met my wife in 1998, and she knew I was a collector and repossession, and she heard me on the phone, and she heard about how great it was. And I had a great management at that finance company. And she's like, you're wasting your time. I'm like, what? She's like, you could be making a lot more money in sales. And she mentioned a couple of people and a couple of companies, and I had nothing to lose. So I applied at a job that was purchased by an information management company that I worked, and I was there for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the top reps, and I became a supervisor there. Like I said, all my career was fraud and risk prevention.
So what was your wife's background? Is she kind of was hearing you and set off that light bulb?
She was actually a medical billing manager for an anesthesiologist group. Mm-hmm. She knew I just had it in me, I'm a fighter, I'm tough. And,
well, the salespeople can always be sold by another good salespeople. When we see another good salesperson, right? Don't we have we want to all right, I'm buying from you because you're good.
Tracy, I sold me to her for her to marry me.
Yes, well, there you go. You could sell ice to Eskimos, right? Exactly. But because I've had people make the same comment to me and listen, because the first 12 years I was in the mortgages was in the call center. Mm-hmm. So people are calling it, and when you have a non-salesperson like your wife and they're hearing you, they're like, oh. They kind of put themselves as if they're the other person on the phone, and they're like, I would do what he told me to do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they're listening to that and picked it up. So what transition? But go back to the question slightly before. So you were making great money, mm-hmm. and you started to buy some properties, flip some properties, do some things there in South Florida. What kind of got your fancy to start looking at real estate?
So when I first moved to Florida, I really didn't have a place to live. I was 23, 24. Mm-hmm. And I bought a condo, and I saw how quickly the value went up. And then people that I knew were renting, and they saw, oh my God, Jimmy has, a nice condo, blah, blah, blah. And without even a real estate license, I showed them how to buy a house, right? And then when me and my wife got married, we bought a house, and it went up really quickly. And I said,
this is early 2000s, I would imagine.
This is 99.
Okay.
99, 2000, right, mm-hmm. Exactly. It went up really quick. To be honest, South Florida, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage on a lake, $128,000.
Yeah.
In a couple of years, it went up to like $325,000. And my wife was doing very well with her position. I was doing very well. And we decided to buy this monster house that we didn't even need. Because it was only me, my wife, and my daughter. Mm-hmm. It was like 5-6 bedrooms. It was ridiculous. Everybody was laughing at us. But the problem was that it had Chinese drywall. And every realtor should know what Chinese drywall is, because it was a big problem.
Was it more focused? Because I want you to expand on that and go into that a little bit to your story there. Was the Chinese drywall more happening in the South Florida area? Or was it literally everywhere?
It started in Louisiana, went to Florida and parts of Virginia.
Okay.
I was one of the first people, I guess, diagnosed with Chinese drywall. It was interesting because things were breaking. Our refrigerator broke, our new TVs broke, and then one day I was hanging a fan, and I noticed the copper wires were all black, and I thought something was up. I didn't know. And then it was really weird. Me and my wife were going to consider moving to North Carolina, mm-hmm. and I bought a house, and one of my neighbors called me up. He goes, Jimmy, you were right. I'm like, what? He's like, we do have Chinese drywall. I'm like, how do you know? He's like, water came into my kitchen, And we pulled the cabinets out and it said made in China all over the back of it.
So it was more than just health issues.
Yeah.
Because that's what I didn't even think beyond health issues, but like you're saying, it was actually causing issues with the house in general.
Yeah, our refrigerator broke. I went through like 4 TVs in like a year. My air conditioning units, my electric bill was like $400, and the AC company came out.
Mm-hmm.
The house was 1 month old, and they said, you're not maintaining your AC unit. I'm like, what are you talking about? I just moved in here. He's like, look, and he showed everything. All the copper was all black, and it broke, ate through the compressor or whatever.
That's just not even. I mean, I can't even put my arms around that. That the drywall was literally affecting the electronic components in the house.
Yeah, it was emitting a gas. But problems were kids were getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
They had nebulizers. I ended up losing. I had a French bulldog who died of lung cancer, and dogs don't usually get lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
It was a mess. But I was like, I got to get out of here, and I actually had a couple of sinus surgeries because of it. I was like, I got to get out of here. And the bank didn't want to hear anything about it. They said they didn't know anything about Chinese drywall. It was a mess.
All right. So you're early on. And I mean, what'd they end up going back? Did they end up tearing down houses because of this stuff?
So some builders stood behind their product. One is GL Homes, which I did not have a GL home. Mm-hmm. And they tore down the whole house. Other places just put Band-Aids on it. I winded up selling the house in a short sale. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to deal with it. I felt that the development was going to be blacklisted the whole time.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? It's still worth probably what I bought it for in 2005 today.
Right. Yeah.
Because of it.
Yeah.
But the good thing that came out of it was I learned how to do a short sale. And I started buying short sales in South Florida. And I didn't know I had a knack for redoing them and remodeling them myself. So I would work my regular job as a supervisor or manager, of the call center and the information company, and I ran a commercial credit bureau. And at night I would be doing the work myself and redoing these houses and reselling them.
How has that, and I ask this question because it hasn't come up recently, but when I have someone who's buying investment properties or flipping, doing other things for themselves in real estate, how does that empower you when you have these clients that come in front of you and they are asking about, hey, I want to buy an Airbnb, I want to have a rental, or I want to do a flip, because you've already done it enough times. And just to reach out, if you're in real estate, maybe you're early and don't have the money yet, but if you should be looking at an investment yourself, having some of these experiences so that you can, because there's really no book on it, right? Who trains? Hey, this is how you do flips, and tell your people how to do flips, right? Who has that training? And then an agent talk with confidence that's never done a flip before. You know what I'm saying? So how's that giving you some confidence in working with some of your clients, or being able to walk into a house that they love the address, but it needs a little bit of work, and you've done that?
Right. So one issue, I guess there are classes on how to buy flips and distressed properties, and you being a mortgage person, you can understand this. I usually tell people, do you have money? And sometimes they say, no, I can get a loan. Well, those are the people that they probably don't have a chance of succeeding. People have buckets full of money all around the United States, and the people that come in with the cash are usually the ones that get the good deals.
Right.
But there is a lot of money buying and flipping and stuff like that.
Did you, in your buying and flipping, did you ever buy one that was a kind of a money pit? Like, oh my God, had some other issues with it that you didn't see up front?
Yeah, I could think of one in particular. The house was awesome, but my daughter was probably, 3 years old, and the house was built in 1960, and I didn't want to put my 3-year-old daughter in a bathtub. Mm-hmm. And I took the bathtub out. It was cast iron. Obviously, it weighed about 10,000 pounds. And they removed it. I got help. And then all the wood was termite eaten. Oh. And it's, termites are a big deal. I'm not discounting it, but it really wasn't a big deal to fix it. It wasn't active termites.
Right.
But that was a surprise.
Right. Extra cost. Because like you said, some of these people, they want to flip houses, but they don't have money. Well, you got to be prepared for pulling the tub out and finding out everything's rotted underneath.
Like I tell people, I don't like surprises.
Yeah.
Another issue I had with that specific house too, I thought putting a new roof, new windows, new doors would have saved me a ton of money on insurance. And when the insurance company came out, the insurance actually went up. And that was a surprise. Like,
Because of the cost to replace, or what do you think?
no, because they were talking about roofs and nails and how it's secured, and because the house was built in 1960.
Right.
So I would have been better off not replacing the windows, the doors, and the roof, and my insurance would have been lower.
Wow.
So that's a big problem in South Florida.
Well, I'm glad the insurance topic, just to throw it out there, it's challenging people in their affordability.
Absolutely.
To get to as an agent today, what are some of the things that you're doing differently as far as insurance, and especially when guiding your buyers, so they're not 3 days before closing and find out their insurance is 3 times more than what they thought it was going to be, or we, as loan officers, we always just estimate what's in there, but it's changed over the last few years. Have you had some challenges with insurance?
That's an excellent point right there. What I do is I usually, in the inspection period, I ask my buyers to go get insurance. So there are no surprises. Obviously they can, no, like I said, we don't like surprises.
Yeah.
So if the insurance, we thought it was going to be like $1,500 a year and it's actually $5,000 a year, like it was in South Florida, they might need to do something different.
Yeah. It could be obviously disqualifying them from qualifying for the loan. Now, all of a sudden their budget's blown out. So it's very important. And Jimmy, bring it just to talk to the listeners out there. It's very important. Like you said, the insurance company they'd love to have a 4-point and wind mitigation. You should be having that done on every home because the insurance just wants to have that now pretty much on everything, and get that done on the inspection, but get that insurance quote up early, because at least you can back out, hey, yeah, the inspection, there's this, that, and the other thing. We're going to walk away because we know the insurance is just going to be through the roof, and not, you don't want a client, which literally just a few years ago in 2020, we would get the insurance like the week before closing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Didn't think much about it. Now, because we don't know what kind of curveballs that could throw, it could really tick off a client. They may close, but they're going to hate you because you didn't tell them to get an insurance quote up early.
Something that just popped into my mind. I got a call the other day. This guy wants to sell his house. He bought it last year. And I noticed that the prior owner only paid $70,000 for the house. He paid $300,000, and his taxes are like, he says, I can't afford the house.
Right.
So now he's having me list it.
Well, that is because having worked for a large builder here in town and doing mortgages for them, the shock of the actual taxes, right? And obviously we try to prep them. So, we always had a calculation because we would qualify them off what we would calculate our projected tax rate to be. But some of the little tricks, if that person is, let's see, if they have a second home here and now they want to move down, maybe they've had that second home for 10, 15 years. Now they want to move into it as their primary and they want to homestead it. Sometimes it's better just to leave it as a second home.
Exactly.
Because the insurance is going to recalculate, even though you're homesteaded, and blow you out. Yeah. So yeah, those are things you want to find out from the tax base, because it could be just like the insurance.
And that's one of the reasons why you should have an experienced realtor to let you know this. So
yeah.
There's no, like I said, no surprises, right?
Right. Because those are deal killers, and definitely, some people will still qualify and they'll close, but they'll really have a bad taste in their mouth about the deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Tell us, you're dabbling in real estate and doing other things, but something brings you here to Northeast Florida.
So I worked for a bunch of companies in South Florida and did very well, really good, and all this. Insurance kept on climbing in South Florida. I lived in Boca, and also insurance. And I had no intentions of moving here. No intention of moving to Jacksonville, St. John's. And I said to my wife, houses are pretty cheap in St. John's. I want to buy a house. We don't have to move here. She's like, I don't want to move here. I'm like, okay. So I saw a house in like 2016 to 17. It was only like $250,000. And I bought a house. No, I'm sorry. I didn't buy a house. I put it on the side. Then I saw they jumped up like 50 grand. And I was like, oh God, I better buy a house. Because it's defeating my purpose of eventually getting here.
Equity growth. Yeah.
So me and my wife came here a couple of times and we checked it out and we liked it. We bought a house and we still weren't going to move here.
So you're renting that out?
No. It was just so quick because we bought it in like January.
Okay.
And we love cruising as a family. And my daughter said, "Are we going on a cruise for spring break?" And I'm like, "No, we have a house in St. John's." My wife's like, "There's no furniture." I'm like, "We'll figure it out." So my wife asked for off, and was something happened with her boss and this, that, or whatever. And me being a go-getter, I typed in what my wife did, and a job just opened up. And I said to my wife to apply. She goes, "I'm not moving." I'm like, "Just apply." She gave me a hard time. I sent her resume. She got a call a couple of hours later, and they wanted her to come for an interview. And she says, "Now what?" I'm like, "Tell them no. We'll be there in a couple of weeks." So a couple of weeks go by. She goes on the interview. She goes, "Jimmy, I love the company." And she goes, "I really like the job." I'm like, "So take it." She goes, "What about you?" I'm like, "Just go without me. I'll sell our house in Boca. My daughter could finish school for the year." And that's what happened. So June 1st, I think it was 2017 or 18, I moved here.
You joined her?
I joined her.
Yeah. So you leave your job in South Florida?
No, actually, I had a job that I was able to work from home, so it actually worked out really good.
All right.
It actually worked.
So what happens though, because you are going to quickly transition into real estate
Exactly,
here.
yeah.
So what happens that causes that transition?
So I decided I was fed up with corporate world, and I said, I'm going to be a realtor. There's a lot of bad realtors out there. I knew St. John's was growing. All these builders were, going crazy.
Yeah.
So I hung my license with Exit Real Estate Gallery, and I went out. And I basically...
So you were still working the job from home, and then now you're starting to dabble into actually show some people some houses.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I sold the house pretty quickly, like my first or second day. And I said to my wife, I said, I like this. I don't have to answer to anybody, except for my customers. And the people are really nice at Exit. Ray and Sonny are awesome. Little plug for them. And I said, I'm just going to be a realtor.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So, all right. So you're jumping in the first year, which ends up being great for you. You're in an area, as we were talking kind of pre-show, you didn't know anybody.
I didn't know anybody.
So where are you getting that initial sale and sales through that first year? What are you doing?
So I did buy leads that Exit offered, and I did phone time. Anybody that knows me, I love to talk. I can sit anywhere. I can go out. I didn't wear one today, but I have shirts that say Jimmy Diamond, United
I've seen it. Yeah.
And basically just talk to people, and that's it. It just worked.
Yeah.
Where I go, I pick up customers.
And we're kind of in that bubble here, and we've been in it because we have so much growth. Nassau County's got so much that's just St. John's, right behind St. John's as far as growth. There's really valuable, land up there and affordable, little more affordable than what St. John's has become. But St. John's has so much, further to go when you think of the county and all the way out to Hastings and, everything in between. And obviously with this expressway going to pour over here.
Green Cove.
Yeah. Going over to Green Cove is just going to open up, a whole thing there. And I mean, really going back 7-8 years, like you started. And, I don't see anywhere for the next, because really that bridge isn't even going to be finished. They're saying 2030. So we're still 5 years away from that bridge being completed before it opens up. But people are already going out there. And I know developers obviously are already pre-planning communities and so forth to open up.
Yeah, there was an article yesterday, Green Cove, 2 huge developments are going up.
Yeah. I think someone has said the same developers from Nocatee have land out there and going to want to do something similar out there. So I just see... unless a huge economic collapse or something like a 2008, we're kind of in a bubble here compared to most of the country as far as demand. We're in Florida. People want to move to Florida, whether, politics and taxes and so forth. And we're the ones sitting here with the, I'm going to call it semi-affordable housing as far compared to some of the other places in the state.
I'm smiling because it's funny because people always ask me, "Oh, Jimmy, how's the real estate market doing?" I'm like, well, we're in Florida. It's great.
Yeah.
How many people do you know are moving to North Dakota? Not many.
Right.
Everybody wants to still retire in Florida. They like the sun. It is, like you said, more affordable.
And Jacksonville's been really good with bringing in, white collar jobs, the financial, the amount, it's become a financial hub for a lot of banking institutions and so forth as well, bringing in white collar, higher paying jobs, which then also need people to service them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're kind of in that bubble, and I think it's going to go on, for a while there. All right. In that first year, you use some of the skills that you just naturally have. You love talking to people. You're like me. We're both from New York. We're kind of very direct in our talk, and you're resonating with some people. But what were some of the challenges that you had in that first initial year?
Well, COVID was there a little bit. It was good and it wasn't good. Everybody wanted to move to Florida because we didn't have the mask mandate, and Florida was still open.
Right.
Inventory was an issue. The inventory was a little low.
Did you discover anything about yourself though during this? I mean, you had worked in collections, and what you were doing before gave you a skill and mindset, like how to work with people, because that's what you do every day. You're working with somebody one-on-one, and sometimes it's not just for a couple hours on the phone for trying to repo their car. You're now spending 30 days with them or whatever,
right?
To sell a home. But you had to adjust some of your skill sets.
So yeah, I'm used to working in an office, right? Now a realtor, you work 24/7. I answer the phone. A lot of realtors, even as a realtor, you reach out, nobody answers the phone. So I make myself available. I'm knowledgeable. I get my buyers great deals, and I also get my sellers more money when they sell their home.
Right.
I treat my customers like how I would want to be treated, and I act like their money is like my money.
Right.
I'm not in it for the money. I'm there to help people. I don't want that one sale. I want them to refer everybody to me. If they sell their house, if they think real estate, I want to buy or sell, I want them to think of me. If somebody wants to buy here and they know somebody, I want them to refer them to me.
Like you said, you buy and sell as if it's your transaction. But one of the conflicts that I hear agents, not only my wife, but agents that sit here in front of me and we're talking and so forth, that sometimes the agent on the other side can get their emotions and ego, especially in a negotiation situation, because they almost treat it as if it's their money. How do you differentiate? Because you're obviously good at it because you're putting up the numbers, and nobody's complaining about, I hate doing a deal with Jimmy. I have never heard that. So what do you do differently, even though you want to treat it like it's yours, but also there comes a point where it's like, okay, it's really not mine. It's actually my client's. So I can't get my ego involved and kill this deal.
I know when to back off. That's the simple answer. But a story, just a quick story. I got a lot of stories. There was this couple I was working with, and I showed them a house, and they loved it, and they said they wanted to buy it. They were like 28 years old. The wife was pregnant, and I went home, and I looked at the seller's disclosure, and the roof was like 20 years old, and the AC was 20 years old. And I told them, I said, listen, I can't sell you this house. Like I said, I'm not money hungry. I'll sell you a house anyway.
Well, you don't want to put them in a money pit either.
No. And they were really mad at me. I thought they were going to fire me. They're like, we really want the house. I'm like, listen to me. Just give me a couple of weeks. I'll find you something nicer, and I got them to agree. So coincidentally, I found them a house in Orange Park that was under contract, fell through for whatever reason. All the repairs were done. The house was like $50,000 cheaper. And the house was awesome. And they were like, oh, we're so glad we listened to you.
Yeah.
It only cost them 2 weeks.
Right.
So that was a good story.
I've found in nearly 20 years that some of those times where, something's fallen through and it killed a deal. And even though you have, not because the buyers can buy, something just is not, and they get disappointed. And, in this guidance, and it's a blessing. And actually they end up finding the house. They're like, oh, whoa, this house is actually better than the house I thought was the best.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. That has happened more times than not in those situations. So I said, it always works. Things happen for a reason. And
you don't know.
It works out
at that time.
We were talking pre-show, and this is a kind of set question that I've been building into my show. We're talking about grit and Angela Duckworth's book. And I really think every real estate agent goes through it. As you say, you still go through it. Times where, curveballs are set back, thrown at you, like the roof and the AC. That's a curveball. A lot of agents, You know, especially early on, they're like holding on to the deal because that's their only deal. And they're like, oh my God, this is going to blow up. I want to do the right thing, but then I'm not going to have a sale. And are they going to fire me and go find someone else that will sell them that house or whatever? They go through those stresses. And then you're like, man, should I even do this anymore? But what are some of the things that, you know, that you really enjoy and love about because it sounds like you love the transaction.
Oh, I do. I love helping people. I like that people need my help. Mm-hmm. I love educating people. You know, I love when they say thank you. I love the day I hand them the keys. Mm-hmm. You know, just the whole process. I make it really easy for my customers, in my opinion. It is very stressful and difficult, and there's a lot of spinning wheels. But because of my experience and a lot of other agents that are awesome, you know, they make it sound like it's nothing. We do this every day. Right,
exactly. So that falls into the laughter part. Mm-hmm. When these things are thrown at you today, I mean, give us an example of something maybe you've had in the last few months or something that kind of really hit you and you had to like step back and then you go, nah, man, this is no big deal.
Oh, I'm in the process of working a deal right now. My buyers really love the house. The house is great. The house didn't appraise.
Oh, okay. There's a curveball. That's not happening very often right now. Low appraisals.
Yeah, this
is an oddity.
This house is an odd house. It's in Green Cove Springs. Mm-hmm. It's on 10 acres.
Oh,
yeah. So basically, I'm getting my buyer a deal. She got it like $30,000 less than we thought we were going to get it for, and then there was some termite damage, and we got the seller to repair that. And that's where we are right now. That deal is supposed to close at the end of the month. So my buyers are really excited.
Because it takes a level that probably, you know, especially us as men, patience sometimes is the virtue.
Anybody that knows me knows I don't have
But that's a challenge that we have, right? And it just like step back. But like if you were teaching a negotiation class, because I think that, and this is not just in real estate agent, but a lot of times in sales, especially when we deal in the real estate industry with so many other people. It's not just me selling you one. We've got title companies, we've got lenders, we've got inspections, a lot of hands, people coming in with their 2 cents into the game.
Oh, the moms and dads that bought houses 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're telling the kids what to do. Yeah.
You thought where I was going with that. But going back to the patience part, because we are dealing with so many people, and you know, I'm sure when you got the phone call, you know, whether in this situation, or imagine the lender calls you, say, "Hey, we got a low appraisal," right? You got to take a step back.
Absolutely.
You might have to go for a walk around the block, whatever your thing is, and how am I going to present this and still keep it on the tracks?
Well, unfortunately, my brain is very fast. I digested it very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I already so that's one thing. I always have a game plan with my buyers and my sellers before we even get to that point. I educate them through the way, you know, and I explain to them, you know, this could happen. And
yeah.
So I already know the plan.
Did you, in this particular situation, because we haven't had a lot of low appraisals, was low appraisal a possibility with this one?
I don't remember. I sad to say, I don't remember, but I still talked about it.
Right.
Like I said, I don't like surprises. Mm-hmm. If it's going to happen, let it happen, but no surprises.
Well, even, you know, like I said, we haven't, you know, as I've been saying, we haven't had a lot. Well, I haven't seen or anybody really talking about low appraisals, but you should say whether you think it's priced right or not, because when it does come in, they're that much more appreciative. But if it doesn't, they're still appreciative because you already prepped them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And my buyer was, you know, because the deal's still going on, I can't go into detail, but
yeah.
My buyer told me how she wanted to go about it. And I'm like, just calm down.
Yeah.
You know, and I saved it $30,000. Just put it like that.
Yeah. Time can kill deals, but taking a few minutes to go through your thoughts. How am I going to represent this? How am I going to negotiate this? How am I going to go to my buyer and say, hey, this is what we should do. This is what I would recommend we do. Mm-hmm. Here's option A, option B. I like option A. Like, this, because sometimes it is a little bit of a chess game.
Absolutely. I said to her, either A, you could buy the house anyway, even though it didn't appraise, or B, you could split it in the middle, or C, hopefully the seller drops the price.
Right.
You know, how it's going to flow, I can't tell you, but those are the only three options.
Yeah. But I think the learning lesson for anyone listening right now, foreshadow all the possibilities within reason that you could possibly see that might set this deal south and you need to turn it back and get it back on.
Exactly.
And if you do that, that's when you make that phone call to client, said, hey, remember we talked about a possible low appraisal? Well, we did, and it came in this light, and this is what we need to, this is what I suggest we do.
I always tell everybody it's not a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah.
And they understand that.
Yep. No, it's exactly. All right. And so love, laughter, LL, and C is consistency. What have you evolved in your business in 8 years that you consistently are doing today? You may have been doing it all from the beginning, but I imagine as you've grown in experience in the business, what's working and what's not, and depending on the market, what's working and what's not. Because I imagine things you were doing in 20 are different than what you're doing in 24 and 25. What are you doing consistently in your business today?
I wake up every morning, check my emails, call people back, make cold calls, follow up, just go through my list every day.
Right.
I don't let anything go through.
Do you kind of time block that? Say, okay, I'm gonna be returning my phone calls between 8 and 10. I'm gonna be making new calls. Do you actually block it that way, or you kind of just, hey, between now and noon, I'm gonna get this stuff done, so in the afternoon I can go, show a house or whatever?
No. No, because there's always surprises, and you got to do things differently, and there's always another phone call that takes you off guard. You always got to be flexible. That's one thing that I wish I would have learned earlier in life. You got to be flexible because there's always going to be surprises. You got to do things different. Like, you're referencing books. Who Moved My Cheese?
Yep.
Love that book.
Yeah.
You got to do something different every day because what worked yesterday will probably not work today.
Right. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things, in 20 and in 21, rates were low. You stuck a sign. Like you mentioned, you got 20 listings right now. I don't know if the rates dropped, you'd be going crazy because with the demand here, I think if rates go below 6%, we're going to see a multiple offer thing. Although a lot of houses are getting multiple offers, one or two, but not like in 20 and 21 where you're getting 20 or 30 or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you're doing differently today than what you were doing in 20?
I'm doing a lot of things the same. I know that's contradicting what I just said, but I work really hard. I work 7 days a week. I pick up the phone. I'm working all day. I'm always on the road and just following up and making sure. One thing I do is even though I'm working with, let's say 20 people, I make everybody feel like they're my only customer. I don't, it's just nobody feels it.
Right. How do you do? You get 20 listings and you're also working with buyers. Mm-hmm. So, you 25, 30 clients that you're juggling at this time. One, I don't know how you keep them separate because I can't memorize everybody's name. But like you said, treat them like they're the only client because I've seen agents' phones blowing up, which I imagine, you probably when we get off the show, because you got silence, you're probably going to have, half a dozen phone calls are, on there. How do you do that? Like actually focus on that one client? Because you might spend a good, part of the day with that one client, knowing you got 25, 30 other people who may be calling you during that time and returning their call in a reasonable period.
So I'm a machine. Mm-hmm. When I'm with a customer, I usually don't answer my phone, but I'll text them back right away. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't like barriers. Like if I was trying to reach you because you're my mortgage person, I would want the same service,
Right.
So I just do it. Like I said, I'm on it.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you take a lot of advantage of your drive time.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Tell us about that. What are you doing? You're showing the client here, but now it's 20 minutes to this other house you're going to show. What are you doing in that 20-minute drive, for example?
Talking.
Yeah.
That's all I do is I'm on the phone all day.
So you're returning some of the calls that you might have gotten while you're showing that house. Are you also using it to take advantage of making some of the cold calls, so to speak, or
Absolutely.
Follow-up calls? Yeah.
Yeah. It's whatever needs to be done. Like I said, do whatever needs to get done.
All right. There's no way you're keeping all this in your mind, though.
I do.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
That's just amazing because like I said, you're dealing with 30 different people. I'd have to have a list. It's like I have a list of everyone's been on the show, and I track like the last time I talked to them because I'll when was the last time I spoke to what I'm saying, and go back and date it, on my spreadsheet so I'd know. Oh yeah, I did. Because the things go by, you see social media and like, oh man, was it yesterday that I talked to him or was it 3 weeks ago?
I'm different.
Yeah,
I'm different.
Yeah,
that's all I could say is, I do use a CRM as well. And I believe it or not, I use text my text log. You know, sometimes somebody will say, I want to see a property at 3:00. And I'm like, oh my God, who is this? I didn't save their name. And I look, and they're like, oh, that's Bob. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. No, I've been there too. We know a lot of real estate agents fail. They never renew their license. And I think this year is going to be one where we're going to see a huge purge of not only real estate agents, really a lot of people in the real estate industry. We're going to see a lot of loan officers rolling out. I mean, because I don't think people realize here in Florida, when I go and look at people's numbers and I'm seeing, you know, some of these people that have done 40 deals and you look at them and 25 of them are cash. Okay. So they didn't even need a loan. And then the 15 that are left over, 7 of them are new construction and they've got their in-house lender or so forth. So we're going to see a lot of mortgage people roll out, but a lot of real estate agents roll out. What is it that you've noticed in the 8 years that you've been actually, you know, with a brokerage and seeing other agents on a regular basis and working with them? What do you think are some of the reasons why they don't succeed? That they're literally out, whether 3-6 months within the first year?
Their expectations of the career is totally off. Some people are lazy. Some people are entitled. Some people are in it just for the money. They can't afford to do it, you know, because if you don't have that study funnel, you know, going on, you know, financially, it's really difficult.
Right.
So you just have, you know, you have to have an open mind. You got to keep the grind, you know, and keep on working. You got to fill that funnel. You know, some people are happy with 1 or 2 customers. Not me. I have to have that funnel filled and just keep on going.
Right.
You know, I make believe every day I'm unemployed and just start working, you know, pound the phone.
Yeah. Because literally you are not, if you don't have a closing scheduled.
Yeah. It's scary.
You're not going to, you may go out and showing houses today, but you ain't getting paid for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've got, so if you were, you know, coaching, I imagine over the years, you've had plenty of people come up to you and say, hey, should I get into real estate? What do you tell them?
Well, it depends, you know, it depends on their career. Like my daughter, I've been trying to get her to do real estate forever. Mm-hmm. And, I think she just doesn't want to follow in her father's footsteps, which most kids don't.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't like it's lucrative. I would do it in addition to something else. You know, I just dive in. Like I said, I'm different.
Right. Well, you were doing well in the other business. You had other, you know, resources, savings and so forth from other careers.
Absolutely.
Where, you know, one of the things I said there's going to be a chapter in the book is like, where did real estate agents come from? And some of them have thought of it as their, you know, they've come to an end road previous career and because of an end road or a failed business or whatever, they don't have any savings. Mm-hmm. Or they don't have a spouse who's making an income that can support the family themselves, where they can go out and take a year to get the business going, you know, type of thing. So in someone coming to talk to you, what do you recommend? I mean, like, from the standpoint, hey, you need to have X amount, you need to have this in savings. And then graduate that from the actual dollars that they need to obviously eat with or market with, type of thing, to what are the expectations?
One thing,
because 40 deals in the first year is not common.
I busted my butt, but failure is not an option to me. And like I said, there's no barriers. I think it's really difficult to do real estate part-time, you know, and that's a problem too. You have to be available for your customer, because if you don't answer the phone, guess who they're calling? Me.
Yeah.
You know, and I get that. I'll answer the phone on a Sunday morning and I'll be like, hey, this is Jim. And they'll be like, are you a human being? I'm like, yeah. They're like, I called 5 other realtors and you're the only person that answered the phone. I said, yeah, that's why my reviews are really good and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Well, it's why you've got 20 listings and so forth. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it was actually a Sunday a couple of weeks ago. We were just kind of casual because it was cold out. We've had a crazy cold this month. We haven't had this stretch of cold weather since I've lived here for 15 years. It was
46 when I drove here this
evening. But she had 3 calls, literally, for people who wanted to list their house that day on a Sunday. She's picking up, and I'm listening to each one of these conversations, and she asked one customer, how soon do you want to get it on the market? She's like, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she goes, well, okay, well, we can get it on this week, but we can't, not today, but we need to get pictures and so forth. But you need to be responsive like that.
Absolutely. And like I said, if you're not willing to do the job, somebody else will. I went on a listing appointment yesterday, and I knew I got the listing before I even walked in. The guy goes, I love your vibe. He goes, I like your your motivation. You know, it's like, and it's funny because I tell people how old I am. You know, when I'm on the phone, they have one vision of me, and I think they think I'm younger. And when they see me and they see I'm in my 50s, they're like, oh, wow, this guy has lots of experience too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
You mentioned you currently have 20 listings, which in 20 you didn't have that because they were going as fast as you put the sign in the yard.
I didn't even have any listings in 20.
Yeah.
I started with, and not to cut you off.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But I used to be a buyer's agent, and when I knew they were coming out with the buyer's broker agreement thing, I was like, that ain't happening. So I started switching to.
So you didn't understand what listers last.
I knew what it meant, but remember, I really, you know, I don't belong to any organizations. You know, I don't have a lot of. I'm older, you know, so there's a lot of things different, you know, like when you grow up.
You're not following Buffini or Tom Ferry or anybody like that.
No, I follow Jimmy Diamond.
All right. So now you have 20 listings. What are you know?
I think it's like 17 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's 16 more than most agents. I'm sure probably 17 more than most agents. I mean, like I said, for some reason this year I have noticed those who, you know, a lot of people did well in 23, even though rates were higher, but all of a sudden 24 came around and I've seen some people's businesses where they've tapered down. Like I think the Jack's Real Producers cutoff is probably going to be lower and because they do go by volume, but some agents have actually excelled in this marketplace. But with these 17 listings, what is your strategy? Because you've seen the one thing you love to do is have a heartbeat on what's going on, be in the know, so to speak. From a marketing standpoint, what are you doing there? What is the Jimmy Diamond stamp, so to speak, when you go into that listing appointment that you're saying, hey, I'm going to do this with your house to give it exposure? So
time is so important. You never get time back. When I'm on the phone with the customer, I more or less know if I got it or not when I walk in. I just ask the right questions. I ask their motivation. How serious are they? You know, when did they buy the house? That's a new thing, right? Because I just got a call yesterday. It was a Zillow lead. And the guy only bought the house in December. And he wants to sell it already. He never moved into it. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to move to Florida anymore. I'm like, well, do you have money to come to the table? Because the market has gone down a little bit. And
yeah, they're going to look at what you paid for it 45 days ago.
Yeah. And he's like, I got to do what I got to do. I'm like, okay. And I sent him the listing agreement. I didn't even meet him. I went to the house because it was a lockbox. And I sent the listing agreement. He sent it this morning, signed.
Yeah.
So,
well, one of the challenges we have too is, you know, we've seen people within the first year or two, new construction, and there's still construction going on with all the incentives the builders are doing, that, yeah, they are going to have to take a hit if they want to sell that home in any reasonable period of time right now, if they're in one of those neighborhoods. Well,
absolutely. The only thing that might save them is that somebody needs a house today and they don't have time for a house to be built. But yeah, you're right, 100%.
Yeah. So asking those questions, but are you, some of the top agents that I've spoken to, they really believe, and I can't see why anyone would disagree with them, when you become focused on listings, every time you do a listing, that's like your billboard, right? How you do it, professional photos, do you stage it or not? When you go into that listing appointment, one that you don't assume that you actually have to earn when you show up. What are some of the things that you're presenting? Say, hey, this is the Jimmy Diamond way. We're going to list your house this way. I'm going to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is I walk around the house and look for any major issues, right? If I see rotted wood, I'm like, you should take care of this before. It'll cost you less now than if you wait till later.
100%.
I tell people, are you taking all your stuff? And they're like, well, I'm going to throw a lot of it out. I'm like, well, throw it out now. You know, I'm very like, I let them know.
No, that's great advice. Actually, I bet you if we interviewed 1,000 people, 999 wouldn't ask that question. Are you going to take all your stuff? No, I'm going to get rid of it right now.
Yeah, like I said, no surprises. You want them to start thinking about,
presentation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's funny. What I've been noticing a lot is, and this is not good, is that people say, yeah, I'm ready next week. So I put it in coming soon, and they're not ready next week. And it drags on a couple of weeks. And, you know, then all of a sudden they're like, well, how come you're not taking the pictures? I'm like, because you didn't tell me you were ready. You know, you were cleaning this or doing that or whatever.
Right.
But,
well, I mean, I'm sure you've run in situations where, because I've seen this happen, I've heard of it happening, some of these agents being inexperienced, They're already like, yeah, we're going to put it up on Thursday, blah, 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 and, or coming soon, whatever. And they haven't even gone over to the house to look at it, that there's actually a hoarder living here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it blows up. You go, oh, maybe we need to step this back a few weeks because we got some work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I always give suggestions, how to make the house look nicer, and, clean the kitchen, clean the bathrooms. Like one guy had one of those recessed mirrors in his bathroom. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if I was you, I would get rid of it and go to Home Goods and buy a beautiful mirror and put it up. Just something just to make him a little more modern.
Right. Right. What are you finding with your buyers from right now? What are they looking for?
They're looking for a home that's inexpensive, and they're looking for unicorns, to be honest. They're looking for homes that are really, inexpensive, that don't need any work.
Turnkey.
Yeah.
They don't want a hot water heater that's 15 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's funny is a lot of people are demanding fences. And I'm like, well, if I find you the perfect house and it needs a fence, that would stop you from buying it. And a lot of people are like, yeah. And I'm like, that's odd. But, everybody thinks about their pets and maybe their kids, but.
That is the weird thing about the business. It's like, people will walk into a master bedroom and go, geez, will my king size bed fit in here?
Oh, I get that all the time with the living rooms. They're like, I can't buy this house. I'm like, why? They're like, my couch won't fit here. I'm like, you told me this is the perfect house. It's the location. It's the school, and.
Yeah, it's because if you actually, now I imagine you probably do this. If that's a problem, if that's a common thing, the fence thing coming up, you've got a fence company that can give you a number.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right away. And that's how you counter that. I mean, the cost of to not buy a house that you love because it's got the right address, right school district, whatever it is that's got you hot about it, and say, I can't buy it because my couch. Yeah, go buy another couch. We're talking.
And see, one thing that I do is I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I challenge the customer because I'm like, that's, I'm trying to open their eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had one couple one day in Shearwater, and I thought they were going to get a divorce. He wanted one thing, she wanted another, and they're like, forget it, we're not buying a house. And I went home and a house just went on the market. Mm-hmm. And I said, listen, I know you guys don't want to look at houses, but I think I found the perfect house. And bang, they bought it cash.
Nice.
Right the next day.
How do you, so I've had many of ladies on the show, if you've looked through my thing, and, we know females have a little easier way. You and I are more direct, plus we're from New York. All right, so that doubles down on the directness. A lot of agents, we have to do some counseling to some of these customers, maybe marriage counseling, maybe financial counseling, but there's you answer your phone 24/7. They're calling you at 8:30 at night, and they've been thinking about the inspection report, which you probably talked to them 4 or 5 hours earlier, and everything's gonna be great. That's only gonna cost this much. We'll get it fixed, or they'll fix it, or whatever. And you're like, great, and you hang up, but they're calling you back at 8:30 because they're thinking about they're not gonna be able to sleep all night because they're worried about this whatever situation. Mm-hmm. How do you, in your personality, and because I relate with you a lot there, handle sometimes some of the touchy-feely counseling, like, hey, it'll be all right type?
I probably could.
Did Teddy Bear Jimmy come out or what?
I probably could do better, but I usually say, we discussed this before. Mm-hmm. It's not really a problem, and sometimes I have to rehash it.
Right.
It's.
And oftentimes it is just that.
And it's funny because most of my customers, now that I think about it, are mostly women.
Yeah.
Than men.
It's the point person a lot of times, if not a single woman. Yeah.
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 But yeah, you just, you got to remember, once again, I do this every day times 20, right? This is new to them. They're coming to me. They could have picked any realtor they wanted in Northeast Florida. They picked me. So I remember.
I imagine you have to tell yourself that
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Remind yourself, especially, they ask a question, you're like, and you're like, okay, this, I do this all the time. They don't.
And one thing, I don't have any brothers or sisters, so I always had to deal with my mother, my wife, and my daughter. So I'm used to dealing with but
well, I remember my wife and I were telling somebody the other day, we came here, I said, okay, honey, because I was working remotely. So we came into town and we were staying with her parents while she went and looked at houses. I said, you go out and you find and you narrow it down to the top 4 or 5 houses and we'll go look at that. And then, because if you're happy with these 5 houses, then I'll come in and I'll give my 2 cents in. But don't run me around for 20. Yeah. That's so. What do you think to flip it from why agents fail to what United Real Estate Gallery? There's some great agents there.
Absolutely.
That you've been around. You've been doing this enough. You're out there. You're at the different social events and so forth, where you're running into, the Jack's Real Producers, where there's other quality real estate agents. What do you think are some traits that some of the people, you obviously have some, but there's others have different traits and they're also successful. What have you found that you think that actually makes them great real estate agents?
Well, one is listening, right? That's why we have 2 ears.
Mm-hmm.
Listening is very important because they're going to tell you what they want, and you got to work with that, because if they want something that's totally not reasonable or expectations are not right, I personally tell people, other people are afraid of their customers because they're afraid they might lose the customer, but communication, listening, availability, knowledge, education.
Let's talk. You think back in 8 years, have you ever had, I imagine everyone's had one, because, if you've been in the business long enough, somebody doesn't really click with you. But if you're listening and understanding what they want, and you may not get along with every client that you have, because just, for whatever reasons, that just people just don't get along for whatever. But if you're listening and going through those things, you can work through those sales. You may not be best friends with them afterwards, but they're happy with it and they go on with their lives. Yeah. What are some of the things that have you picked up on? Because again, you're just talking to you and your story, and I relate a lot with you for that standpoint. To pick up on someone's when you feel you might be pushing them to a point where they might be, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore. Because these agents, like you said, that are afraid, that probably aren't even anywhere near getting fired.
Right.
But they're afraid to say something. But you've probably picked up on some signals from a client when they're starting to get a little frustrated with you, and you've got to turn the table and bring it back in.
Right. So I a lot of times ask if the people are happy. Is there something else we can do differently? I'm not afraid to communicate. Yeah, because like I said, just because you want to buy a house and I want to sell your house, I might not be a right fit. And maybe I could find you the right person, that can help or facilitate. But once again, this is the biggest purchase they're ever going to make, probably. And they have to feel comfortable, and you got to be on the same page. If you're going to the left and they're going to the right, you're wasting your time, right? Yeah. You're not going to get that time back.
And I imagine a lot of I don't know, I'm going to throw this out there, see what you think. You may not like the neighborhood they're buying in.
Yeah, you got to put that
But
aside.
it's not your house.
Yeah, you got to put that aside.
Yeah.
I've brought people to houses before, and I was like, whoa, but as long as it's a good house, it does, if they like the neighborhood, that's their thing, right? But if I see there's, I don't know, the walls falling down,
right,
I'm going to bring it.
Yeah, bad investment.
That's another thing I do that a lot of people don't do, is I point out the problems. When we go look at a house and I'm like, hey, just look at that crack on the wall, or hey, look at that. It looks like there was water there, because like I said, I don't want to sell anybody a bad house and any hard feelings. And I don't need an inspector to tell me that that crack is there. I could clearly see.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a lot of situations here in Northeast Florida. Nocatee to me is the biggest one. There's some people that love it out there. There's some people like moved out there because of it, and then like they hate it. And now they're the ones selling you within the year.
Absolutely.
And wanting to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there's agents who obviously have heard these stories, and they have their opinion on one side or the other, like, hey, Nocatee is where it's all at. And there's other agents like it's a, stuff show, and it's not for everyone, but it's not your decision.
Exactly.
If they ask, they want to be shown houses in Nocatee, you got to go out there and put a smile on it.
Right. If there was polka dotted cabinets and I think they're ugly, I keep my mouth to myself. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might say they love it, and then you might kill the deal for you.
Right. We can reface those cabinets for whatever.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Let me pull up my question here. What do you think? And then these answers might overlap a little bit. We still have new agents entering the market. And to me, if you're within your first 2 years, your first renewal, you're new, especially because in 20, you got a lot of at-bats real quick. Some new agents, like I said, they were out there, maybe they were working with somebody, or there's leads coming in. People were just grabbing agents, show me these houses, buy. If you came in 20, you might have, you hopefully were lucky and got a lot of at-bats. Right now, with things a little slowed down, unless you're being mentored or working with someone like yourself who has a lot of deals going on and you're seeing transactions, you're not getting a lot of at-bats. Your learning curve is slowed down a lot. What would you recommend to someone, whether they're just entering the business, maybe they're in their first or second year, they haven't quite figured it out yet? What are a couple of things they should be doing, in whether it's in the office at United or wherever their brokerage is? What should they be doing?
That's an easy answer. Open house. You need to do at least an open house a week. You're going to get somebody, you're going to get experience. There's this one gentleman at United, he's very new, and he did an open house for me. He got his first listing. I have a really great listing that's coming live actually today. Today's Thursday. And I want to do an open house on Sunday. And he asked the same guy, he's like, can I do an open house for you on Sunday? I said, I'm going to do it with you. I would love that because I can learn from the best. That's a really big compliment.
Yeah. Yep.
And, new agents always call me all the time. And I also share with them, take my listings, post them as your own on Facebook and social media. They belong to the broker anyway, and you might get a call, you might say, hey, this house isn't what I'm looking for, but I'm looking for this. And then there, you got a customer.
You're successful. I had Rick Gonzalez on. Rick is going to be at RE Bar Camp tomorrow. He's been at RE Bar Camp for years. He's not a facilitator this year, but he lives out in the Panhandle, and he's moving to Colorado. They've decided that they're going to, and he's like, okay, how can I restart my business out there? And open houses is how he plans to do it. I had him on I think 2 episodes ago, if anyone wants to go back and listen to it. But yes, go in and ask the listing agent like yourself, can I post these on my social media? Why not? It's getting you more exposure.
It's weird. Some agents don't want you to. I don't know
why. You're still the listing agent.
I'm still going to sell my house.
Yeah, you're still the listing agent. You're hopefully going to move it that much faster. But now you have that many more eyes. I mean, when you go, if you ever taken, I don't know, you know Krista Mashore?
I do.
Yeah, she's a big online. I think her brother really runs the real estate business because she's more the marketing person.
Right.
And she goes and shows people, because she does a lot of direct Facebook type stuff. Hey, this house I listed, look how many hits I got on it, right? These many eyeballs have been on this house. I can do that for your house.
Absolutely.
And when you go in there and you say, hey, I'm at United Real Estate Gallery. We have all these agents. I work with 4 or 5 closely, and they're all going to put it on their social media. They're going to spread it around. That's still your listing. It's still your anchor and your trap, basically, from that standpoint. But the other thing Rick added into, hopefully this gentleman that you're talking about will listen to the show. And if you're a new agent, his tip was go and shoot raw video with your phone, walking through as many open houses that you can reasonably get to on a weekend, and drop them into your YouTube. Put them on your social media reels. You're walking around and you're showing houses. You're talking about it. Now, he does voiceovers. He said, hey, if you don't have the skill to do a voiceover, you don't have the budget to have someone, do the editing for you, just walk through and talk about the raw video. There's guys that are, he mentions in there on TikTok and Instagram, they're going through and just showing raw video of houses. And because they're putting out content, the assumptionability of the client that's out there is like, man, this guy's busy. He must be kicking butt. I want to work with him because he's showing houses all the time. It's on a timer. Look at that. So yeah, open houses. Is there anything that you do special for your open houses? Do you like to go up and down the street, so to speak, or send a postcard out? Do you do anything special for the open house?
So I'm a little weak at it, but you should knock at your neighbor's doors and introduce yourself. That would be a great thing to do because number one, you're getting your name out there. Number two, the seller might, the homeowner might know somebody that's interested in the house. But that's something, I'm a big Facebook person, love Facebook. Marketplace, once in a while I do mailers. With United, sometimes they do Facebook and Instagram blasts.
So this is where I think a lot of agents fail on this too, is they think, like one of the things I've been doing recently, my wife's been doing, I've been doing for a couple other agents. We go co-sponsor a postcard. The marketing team at the bank designs the postcard, looks great. They handle it, mail it out. We split the cost, right?
Yeah.
To, say 300 or 400 homes in immediately surrounding the listing. And you might not get a call on that first one. Second or third one in that neighborhood, you got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think people send out, I sent out 300 postcards on that last one. Nobody called me. If they did, everybody would be doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But if you sent out 10,000 postcards and got a deal, the next 10,000 are probably going to get you 2 or 3 deals.
Right. Well, I think that you should send, maybe 100 multiple times to the same people, and I think that's better.
Right.
Right.
Because I got to see it a number of times. As you know, we get the mail. We go through. Okay, this is what I need to look at. This is junk, and goes right into the recycling bin. Right. Mm-hmm. So they got to see it a number of times, and then you don't know if that particular time is their friend's house, and they know the house, and go like, oh yeah, that's the house around the corner Johnny lives in. They're gonna stop if they look at the address. Like, yeah, I don't know who lives there. They might toss it away. But all of a sudden, your card keeps going and say, I keep getting a card because this guy's selling houses in my neighborhood. You never know when their time is going to arrive.
They might stick it in the drawer and save it.
100%. Mm-hmm. Or, it's not that every day that they're having a barbecue and people are over and someone says, yeah, I'm looking to buy another house, or I'm looking to sell a house, or, hey, my sister's looking to move into town. You don't know in the moment if your postcard came in on Friday and Sunday afternoon they're having a cookout and they're like, oh, yeah, that Jimmy Diamond, he seems to be selling houses in here. You should have Jimmy find your sister a house in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You just don't know. And you got to be, I think you'd agree. I mean, you got to keep swinging the axe.
Absolutely.
And you can't just swing the axe on that tree, then go to the next tree, and then go to the next tree, and then wonder why the trees aren't falling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing, speaking about Shearwater again, I have a listing in there, and me and a bunch of other agents from different brokerages made a flyer, and we're distributing, and we're all doing an open house this Saturday from 12 to 2.
Yeah. So you have a handful of houses going on, and that's collaboration. How important is, and again, you have a lot of great agents at United Real Estate Galleries when you guys do have your meetings and so forth. How important is it to collaborate and interact with other top people and kind of talk shop?
Absolutely. And I speak to probably 4 people every day. Say, hey, how's it going? What's going on?
Other agents?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even though I'm experienced, I don't know everything.
Right.
I think I do, but I don't. It's a joke.
But I know where you're going. Yeah, go.
Yeah, you might pick up something, or you got to go back to 101.
Right.
I might have forgotten something, and somebody says, oh, you should do this. Oh, okay, great.
Or you never know. It's like, yeah, I got this deal in such and such a condo. Man, they just went under a lawsuit. Well, boom. Mm-hmm. Murphy's Law is you're going to get someone who wants to buy in there. And now you're like, oh, I remember talking to so-and-so last week, and they said that place was in a lawsuit. You may not know that till you're 3 weeks into the deal and hundreds of dollars in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. One other thing I want to throw out there is one thing that I'm proud that first of all, I do almost every county. I have listings in Nassau, Clay, Duval, Flagler, and St. John's. And a realtor called me up yesterday and goes, Jimmy, what do you have at St. John's? 400,000. They know that I have a lot of listings, that I'm experienced, and they look up to me.
Well, when you have that many listings, sometimes you probably have 3 that might be going on the market, but they're not going on the market for a couple weeks because they got to get cleaned up.
Exactly.
Got to get pictures and all the other things. There might be that hidden gem they can jump on before everybody else does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for every other realtor that's listening, take advantage of that coming soon. I started wondering about it, and I asked around.
Putting it out like on Facebook and social media, hey, I got this one coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I put a sign on this one that I have on the water on St. John's River, and I already got like 2 calls, and the guy goes, can I see it? I'm like, no, you got to wait for it to go live. And I suppose I'm going to get a call today.
Right. You never know. When someone has, especially in a neighborhood that might be under high demand, doesn't have a lot of other homes up for sale, and you get a coming soon in there, you want to let everybody know, because I guarantee, I'm sure you've seen it in the last 8 years, how many times people, especially in these subdivisions, these PUDs, planned urban developments, where they're inviting their friends and neighbors, want to live in the same neighborhood.
Exactly.
You could be the guy that has the house that just is perfect for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No. My name's Jimmy Diamond, United Real Estate Gallery. And I really appreciate me coming on today.
Yeah, no, and I'd like to reach out to different times. I want to start doing more just like updates. It could be, we could do it virtual, or you stop by in 15, 30 minutes, every 6 months or whatever. Hey, what's going on? Kind of like your own little market update. I know a lot of agents don't know, you get on in front of the camera, but we can do it right here and do a market update. What's going on with Jimmy? Hey, how did those 17 listings that you had in January, how did they filter out? How is the market changing? Hopefully, as we see, with the new administration here going in on Monday and things are moving forward, attitudes change and all that kind of stuff.
I wish we can get those rates down a little bit. Can you do something about that?
I can't. And it's funny. I was teaching a class on Tuesday, Intro to Real Estate Finance, and obviously part of it's talking about interest rates. And the Fed's lowered their Fed funds rates, but mortgage rates have gone up. So there's not a disconnect, but obviously there is a. It could be because of the administration change. So people are like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. Let's put our money in. Well, the administration change sparked the stock market. Mm-hmm. Good stock market. Generally, they're moving that money out of the bonds. It's when the stock market, everyone's kind of hesitant. Well, hold on a second. Let's take it out of those volatile investments and let's just hold it in the bonds and just ride it out. Mm-hmm. That's when you have money for mortgages.
Right.
Type of thing. So I think there's going to be pressure from obviously Trump's going to put pressure on them because he wants lower rates. He'd love it. I think when the rates were still through, he thought we should do like 0% rates like they had in Germany and so forth. But I don't think we couldn't handle that. If the rates were 3% right now, the builders couldn't build the houses fast enough.
Exactly.
You would still have a pricing challenge because of the demand. Mm-hmm. So we got to find that happy medium. I think it's in the 5%.
That would be good.
I think when the 30, if you see 5.875 on a plain vanilla 30-year fixed, it's people are going to be refinancing and people are going to be looking to make that move that they've been holding back.
Good for all of us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jimmy, appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.